discussing the news and making sense of a nation on the go. You're listening to The Long Form with Sanny Ntayombya. This podcast is brought to you by The New Times.
Fire burn them, the kumuriro. Ngira kondi bad man, me already know. Umwana mwiza, kene momo. Nganda mkulu, sunikiriyo.
Hello everyone. This week, I want to examine what it means to blaze your own path as a young person in conservative Rwanda. Dressed in skinny jeans, sporting tattoos, and speaking a lingo that sometimes sounds foreign, our young people often seem alien to us. And nowhere is this generation gap wider than in our differing music tastes. Joining me today is one of my favorite young Rwandan artists, Kivumbi King. From hit songs with Toussaint, K Shot, Bushali, and Mike Kayihura, he has steadily created a lane for himself in the rising Rwandan hip-hop scene. We will not just talk about his music journey, we shall also discuss just how accepting the larger Rwandan community is about hip-hop and then highlight the young people at its forefront. Now, if you want to react to this conversation, use the hashtag longformRW on Twitter and share your thoughts. But before we continue, do you know what you need to do today? You need to join the over 40,000 daily subscribers of the New Times e-paper to enjoy credible, in-depth reporting on Rwanda. Visit the website newtimes.co.rw to register for free. And now, back to the show. Greetings, King. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited. You would probably be the first person that I've invited who is below 35.
I'm way below that.
So let's talk about your journey as a young man and as an artist. So what's it been like to date? When did you start music? And when did you know that hip-hop and being a hip-hop artist was your path?
It was earlier on in school. Primary 3, I went to boarding school in Uganda.
Okay.
My family moved there. And at the time, I didn't really speak English or Luganda.
Where were you born?
I was born here in Kigali.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And just out of like a way to like entertain myself, I started writing. Yeah, in Kinyarwanda.
In P3?
Yeah, it was terrible, very horrible. I've always kept small notebooks.
Yeah.
I also loved like listening to hip hop songs and then like cramming like a whole verse from Lil Wayne, not even knowing what it means.
I certainly hope not.
So I've always known I love music, but I just didn't know I could actually do it. So like boarding school really gave me time with like the pen and the paper, and then I just did my thing. After high school, I started performing at spoken word events, spoken word Rwanda actually. Yeah, there is when some people started noticing me. That's when I started getting small gigs to perform at like certain events. Then I just thought I wanted to be a rapper, a poet, like a slam poet. But when I had spent like a year and a half in the studio, I figured I could actually sing too and do other genres.
So this was like when?
2017. I went for like 2 years and then, the pandemic happened. Yeah.
How did you survive during that time?
That period of time, I was lucky. I had access to a studio and we were just recording. That's when I recorded most of my album, my debut album. And we were dropping, but like, not performing, like all these gigs that come on a weekly basis, on even a monthly basis, because we did 2 years. It was hard, but like we made it out.
What was the album called?
It was called DID.
DID?
Yes, Dissociative Identity Disorder.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, it's a mental disorder. I don't have it. I just think it's cool because as artists, we like to be boxed in genres most of the time. And having that as an artist, that means like you have many personalities or many forms that you could deliver your art.
So talking about art and your music, when you are in a studio, when you're sitting down writing your music, who are you making the music for?
Okay.
And who are you speaking to?
So, as I told you, I started writing really at a very young age. The first person I was doing it for was myself, and slowly people found what I was saying relevant to their own lives. So they started connecting like that. That's when you understand that you're not speaking for yourself only, but you're speaking for whoever sees themselves in you and that would be the Rwandan youth. But also for hip hop, really, I don't want to call it the street life because we really don't have that here. I just want to call it regular life hustles, like struggles to get away, to get along. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
You obviously have many young fans and old fans now. Hopefully that after this podcast, you'll get a lot of older fans.
Yeah.
Do you feel that hip hop is being embraced by the larger Rwandan community? And I'm not talking about, American hip hop or British hip hop. I'm talking about Rwandan hip hop.
That's a very good question, because the artists that were doing hip hop before me, and the people we worked together, most of them, they were painted black. That's how I like to call it. They were either painted with drugs, which some of them actually did them. It's not like, because most of them were in prison for a long time and all this. So it became this like scary genre that no one wants to send their kids to or like even listen, because it was getting really dark, aggressive, this after this, and it was not good. For a long time, people didn't really want to, even touch it. Even at concerts, artists, rappers were not invited to perform and do this and that. But something happened around 2020, 2019, 2020, when we were just like coming on the scene. Because I cannot say that the way we are treated is the way the rappers we found are treated. Yeah.
So when you talk about those older rappers, who are you talking about?
There were a few groups of rappers. The most known ones were like Tough Gang. They have really good music, really good rappers, but just some elements of their groups just ended up not in very good surroundings and peers, and they ended up, if not in jail, like dead and things like that. So that left a really dark image on hip hop. So every time you also say I'm a hip hop artist, or you tell anybody that I'm a rapper, they also like kind of like, okay, you're a rapper. So but we are not treated like that, because we haven't also like conducted ourselves in that way. We are not only confined in like hip hop scene, also because from the music we make. A good example would be like seeing a rapper perform at a corporate event. That's like a unicorn, but that's something that's happening now. So hopefully, what I would say, maybe to answer your question, I believe that there's a good number of Rwandans that are embracing hip-hop in its new form.
I've always loved hip-hop. I mean, I'm 42 now, so the very first hip-hop I probably heard was MC Hammer. This is around 89. Some of you were not born. But I remember from that time, there was, that Tupac, Biggie, West Coast, East Coast, beef, gangster rap, which was very, very dark. Then you had situations where, the music slightly became very dangerous. Parents would not want to
let their kids get involved in that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But now when you see hip hop right now, when you see the Drakes, it's
kind of refined a little bit,
and we could call it lover boy music. It's something that
most definitely.
You can sit down with someone and listen to it, and you would not feel, I need to hurt someone or pick up a brick.
The best thing is that also you can look at the fan base. It has changed from being just like, angry teenage boys to a wider demographic, like ladies.
That changes everything, right?
Yeah, but also it starts from what you are saying in your tracks. If you portray this angry guy that wants to hit someone in the face, then you're going to get those angry teenagers behind you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me pause this and to make some money, and we'll continue the conversation in a bit. Before we continue this very interesting conversation, are you looking for a job, or is there a tender you want to bid for? On the New Times Job Mart, you will find hundreds of jobs and tender listings. Visit the Job Mart today by going to its website, jobs.newtimes.co.rw. If you want to post a job opportunity, call 07-8528-9489 and ask about the great rates. And now back to the show. So, I want to now move the conversation into the future. When you are, obviously, you're saying that, you started really doing hip hop 2017. We are now in 2023. So it's been close to 5 years.
5 years, yes.
You're almost a veteran in the genre. When you look now, 10 years, a decade from now, where do you see Rwandan hip hop going? Do you ever see us having a top international act? Do you ever see the Rwandan drill scene, for example, being given that space on BET?
My biggest hope is that in 10 years, we've crafted our own sound in terms of hip hop, cultural stuff. Like, if we could combine those to like have a distinct sound, that could help like even like set us apart from the rest.
Yeah.
Because if we are competing with Ghanaians and Nigerians over UK drill and US and also their beats, which I don't believe Nigerian music. People say that Nigerians found their own sound, but that's just like a combination of a lot of sounds all over the world from also like Congo, East Africa and all this.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying it's going to be hard if we don't come up with a sound of our own that we can use to represent us.
Do you think that we are doing that, or do you kind of think that we are still a bit back when it comes to creating our own lane?
I think there's a few boys and girls that are really doing this. It comes down to producers, and my favorite is a guy called Michael Makembe. You might have.
I've heard of him. He's very good.
He's really coming close to finding that. And us, our like artists, really our job is not to produce music. There's producers for that reason. So once they have it, and I think they're going to get it, in 10 years, hopefully, because now what we have are East African like stars. That's as far as we go. So if we give it 10 years and the work ethic that's being put in right now, I really, really believe there's going to be a big person here.
Is there like an artist that you are thinking, okay, this guy, this girl is coming?
The rapper in me is screaming out me. I would say me, you know, because that's my plan. That's my dream. That's where I want to go. But we have a couple of people that are already doing that are already on the way. I would say them Bruce Melody, Micah, who is really doing a good job at getting a huge East African fan base, and his sound is just like unique. And that's what we are chasing, really. So I'm really optimistic.
All right. So obviously, the music industry needs a few things. It needs support, not just by the private sector, but also the public sector as well. Everyone needs to be involved for a sector to rise.
Yes.
When you think about both the public and the private sector, what do you wish they would do differently to support not just young hip hop, but, you know, young artists?
One thing I would like to ask, really, like I've had this conversation with a lot of people, but I figured like the private sector, like the public one too, they haven't seen the music industry as a profitable industry,
which is crazy,
right? Yeah, it's actually crazy. So that's one thing that they have to see, but for them to see that, that means one person has to first show them, but also they need to take a risk, because I don't think there's any self-investment that there is really.
Yeah, I could disagree with you, because I feel that art is always a safe investment, right? Like if I'm the national police, for example, and I'm trying to push the Jirayo Mahoro message.
Yeah.
Why would you not want the people who are drinking and getting into issues are young people? Use artists to.
And these people are listening to these artists
exactly.
like while they're even driving.
Yeah,
I agree with you, but unfortunately, not a lot of people see it that way. Not a lot of people like also have like see what you've seen over the years, or have a wider information about how the music industry should work. So I know, me myself, as you know, it's a really profitable industry, and once we have people that invest in, because it's business, it's not like you just coming and handing away your money. There's structures and profit return plans that are set, and you can look through, sign, agree, and all we sell is our likeness, the people we have them. And these different companies could use that. Not that they don't have it themselves, but they could even use more of that, and then they're just helping everybody in general, and also setting like making the music industry really functional.
And no message to, say, for example, the Ministry of Youth. Like, do you feel like our government civil servants, are they giving you guys the due attention?
Okay, so I've looked into it. There's efforts that are are there. Like, also, we need to come together as artists so that we have a body.
You don't have one yet?
So there is one, but the head of that, it's been complicated over the years. Some people argue that it's not there, it's not functional. But if it was there and functional, that means we would be in there, we would know it, and we would address our problems even better. So that's one thing I would ask. Private and public is to just give us an ear, because sometimes even to get these meetings, it's like an impossible job. Yeah. So if you give us your time of day, we could make maybe a few things clear for them. And then they would see that it's not actually a failing industry, or it's not because we don't have enough artists or good artists that could push this.
Hopefully these guys that are not giving you an ear, I hope they're listening. So let's talk about your journey, your personal journey. So you're not 25 yet. Someone could say, why aren't you in university? Why aren't you studying computer science? But you are now an artist. When you chose the path that you chose, what was your family's reaction? Were they supportive? Or do you wish they were more supportive? Or was there a little bit of hostility because you're kind of moving outside the orthodoxy?
Yes, it has to be there for any parent that really like cares for their children. I've stopped looking at it like they're against me or anything. It's just because, like, also I'm saying this for every other rapper out there. It's not because they're against you, it's just because they really want what's good for you. When there's some type of hostility and stuff that's just not going as smooth as you thought it would. In my case, they were supportive. My parents were supportive to a certain extent. They were supportive in terms of like, go do what makes you happy. And if you're really good at it, there's no reason why you shouldn't do it. But also, it comes down to after a period of time, because now it's been 5 years, it's like parents also come back. They're like, so where are things now? There's many problems, but also me personally, the biggest challenge has been to stay and actually do what I want to do from Rwanda.
So if a young 16-year-old sits down and tells their mom and dad or their guardian, I want to be a rapper, what advice would you give to the parents? And how would you advise them to talk to their child?
I think school is number one. At least you can drop out of high school. And once that is done, I think music is not something that requires 24/7 of your time. And everybody that really wanted to do music, they found time aside out of the main obligations they had to do. So for some parents, even music is not a no before you even start. I
guess the problem is that we don't have any multi-millionaire musicians. And therefore, parents are probably thinking, "Oh, I don't know how you will survive." So
how are you going to actually make money out of it? Not only music; it's hard to make money out of art to begin with. So for me, it was kind of a risk that I was willing to take. And I think everybody deserves a chance at that. As long as there's communication, I'm pretty sure there could be some type of agreement that's come down to it. But it's not a waste of time, as parents like to put it, you know, because I believe when I'm making art, I know it's something that if I was not making, then I would be probably living a life that I'm not 100% happy with. You know,
or you might just be doing things that are not necessarily good,
not necessarily good, to be honest. So we're still in a very safe country, and that's why I think. But for most countries, like in Uganda, I grew up there part-time, and in Burundi, usually going to arts, it's like an escape from what you would actually be doing on the side if you're not making arts. Even if you are in school, it's a getaway, it's an expression, so it's not as bad as it's been marketed.
So I guess to all the parents, just give your kids a chance.
Just a chance. Give them a chance.
And now that we're talking about chances, I want to talk about value. Right? I would like art to have a value. And so when we think about Rwandan hip-hop, what value do you think that it brings to the larger Rwandan community?
I would like to say poetry in general, it's a very... the Rwandan culture has always been poetic from the start. So to me, it's already a selling point. And hip-hop is not poetry in its traditional style, but hip-hop is poetry too. And if it's done well in terms of representing, I don't think there's anybody that could do a better job. My belief is that there's the president that's actually running the country. But in terms of who speaks for the public, it has to be the artist next. Artists produce, what's the word? Soundtracks to places, to cities, to countries.
To daily life.
You know. So if, first of all, it's crazy to think that that's not a profitable business for me. But that is huge, because I think there's not a quicker way to introduce people to a language than music. Because people sing actually languages they don't understand.
Trust me, I've heard people singing all sorts of Igbo and
exactly
and Shayo, and no one knows what in the hell they're talking about.
No one knows. So I think it's the best tool, and if we don't use it properly, then we're just like putting it to waste. And a quick example for artists that are coming up right now. I've been to Kenya and I've seen how they look at us. How they think we conduct our business also as artists. Put out a very good impression. And
as Rwandan artists or just hip-hop?
As Rwandan artists.
Okay.
Not just hip-hop, as Rwandan artists. But also now Rwandan artists, myself too. I'm not the biggest artist out there, hip-hop artist, but like with the audience I have, I can now do shows in Burundi, in Kenya, Uganda, and in Europe too. In the US, if they give us the visa, those guys like to complicate life, you know. So when we are there, we move in a Rwandan way. Our hairstyles are Amasunzu. So when people see us from the start, they're just like, "Where are you from?" Yeah. And we tell them where we are from and what we do. And I think that's where I think we fit in the bigger picture. It's representing, really.
So we've been talking for the last couple of minutes, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so. And we're coming close to the end of this conversation. Before you leave, is there something that you feel has been in your heart? There are certain words that you've been thinking about that you want to kind of express. Like, are there things that you want to get off your chest?
I should have probably said this when you asked me to say something about the private sector and the public sector. There's structures, there's infrastructure for the music industry that we can put in place. A good example would be the Nigerians. They made sure they acquired these big broadcasting companies and corporations that have things like publishing, because making music just goes a long way from recording a nice song. You need a publishing company, you need a distribution company. Every Rwandan artist right now is dependent on either company from South Africa, Nigeria, or US for distributing their music to, let's say, Apple Music and Spotify.
So we don't have any Rwandan company doing that?
No. We don't have any Rwandan company doing that. But even on top of that, there's publishing companies. They're supposed to collect royalties every time you played on the radio. Every time you played in a club, every time you perform on stage, every time there's this small, like, it's small coins, but really over a certain period of time, it's a big amount, and we don't have a way to collect that. And when we don't collect that, that money is there. It just goes to artists like Davidos and Burna Boys that already have these companies that are collecting for them. So these are infrastructures that artists can put in place. We need help. And once we have that, then in the 10-year plan, we'll have a billionaire.
So where can people find you? Do you have socials? Where can they find your music? And do you have any show coming soon so that people can actually go and just listen?
Okay. If you want to keep up with me on a daily basis, I have Instagram. It's Kivumbi King. Twitter, Kivumbi King. Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube. That's where you find my videos and my music.
Are you on Spotify, Apple Music?
Yes. The audios, if you want to listen, it's on every actually streaming platform that there is. Shows, dates are not certain, but if you follow, you'll see the dates. I'll keep them updated.
All right, King, thank you so much for joining me this week.
It's been a pleasure.
And good luck, and hopefully you will be the first Rwandan hip-hop billionaire.
Let's go.
Before I sign off, here are two of the biggest stories published in the New Times this week. President Paul Kagame has pardoned Paul Rusesabagina, Callixte Nsabimana, and other convicts after they wrote seeking a presidential pardon. The development followed negotiations that involved Rwanda, Qatar, and the United States. They had been found guilty following a much publicized trial for links to FNL, a terror group that killed 2 people in Nyungwe Forest National Park in 2018. They were released on Saturday from Nyarugenge Prison, Majeragere. And lastly, Ugandan Airlines, the flag carrier of Uganda, will start direct flights from Entebbe to Kigali soon as a way to ease trade and movement between the two countries. This announcement was made on Friday, March 24th, during the just concluded 11th Rwanda-Uganda Joint Permanent Commission in Kigali. Uganda Airways resumed operations in August 2019 after nearly 20 years of inactivity. Before we leave, would you like to partner with the long form? Send an email to sales@newtimesrwanda.com and ask for our rates. If you enjoy this show, subscribe to the long form with Sanny Ntayombya on your favorite podcast service. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon Music, as well as the New Times website. Until next week, goodbye.